Thanks for joining me for my first ever video on my reef tank. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, a year in fact, but I've just been way too busy. So although this is an introduction to my reef tank, it's been up and running for 12 months, so it's more of an introduction and a look back over the last 12 months about what's been good and what's been bad. There's been plenty of highs and lows. You know, I've been in the hobby for about 5 years, and I've sat and watched many different YouTube videos and learnt a lot from other people. So I thought, well, it's time to give a little back, and hopefully other people can learn a little bit from me. So let's go and take a look at the actual build itself. I'll tell you how I did it and also what I would change. There's definitely some good points and some bad points. I mean, it's not leaked or anything, which is always good. So that's definitely one of the big plus sides, and there are definitely a few things that we can improve as well. So let's take a look at that now. So I built the frame out of pine 2x4s. I watched another video of someone, I think it was King of DIY. They went through in great detail on how to create a solid frame out of timber. I did that, and you know, it's structurally sound. It's pretty heavy duty. I've got no worries of it collapsing or failing or anything. But in hindsight, I would never do that again. I would use aluminium extrusions, just because, you know, the timber 2x4, especially for my tank at the dimensions that it's at, it just takes up too much room. You can definitely achieve a lot better weight bearing from aluminium, and you get to save a lot more room in your sump. And what I found out is room is in the sump is at a premium, especially because my tank's so narrow. And I use the refugium for nutrient export, so I definitely should have kept as much room in there available as possible. So first tip, if you've got the money, go ahead and use aluminium. I'm probably at some point either gonna purchase a different tank, or I'm gonna upgrade the stand and use the same top glass part, which is actually very good, and it's really well made. It's one of the best decisions I made on the tank. It's called Fire Aqua, and it was really cheap as well. It uses a Starfire glass, which is a low iron crystal clear glass, and the silicone work on it is probably the best I've ever seen. It beats my my other Red Sea Max tanks that I've had. In the past I had a Red Sea Max 400, and I've currently got also a Red Sea Reefer Nano, and the glass work is better on the Fire Aqua on my 4-foot than it is on any of the other two tanks that I've had. Oh, I've also had a Cade as well. It's probably similar quality to the Cade, if anything, just edges it slightly, but it's very similar in build quality. So obviously after I built the frame and I decided on the glass that I was gonna use for the tank, I had to come up with plumbing and the sump. So to save a bit of money, because I wanted to do this on a budget, that's why I didn't buy a ready-made tank. I got an old 90 centimeter by 35 centimeter old aquarium that someone had sort of neglected. I just got it for $50. It came with a load of other stuff that I just threw out. I didn't need anymore, but I got the glass. It fit in the cabinet. And then I also decided to go with a Herbie style overflow. So I bought the tools that I needed, which if you ever want to do this, you just need a diamond bit hole saw, and that will cut straight through glass. The important part is just to keep it wet while you're doing it, keep it cool, and then it won't crack. There's a lot of information out there saying, oh, you should check if it's tempered glass or if it's not. Realistically, people aren't going to make aquariums out of tempered glass, because one knock, the whole thing shatters, and then it sort of sprays water everywhere. So it's not the smartest idea to make an aquarium out of tempered glass. So I don't know where this sort of urban myth came from, that a lot of them are made by that. Certainly not I've ever come across are made with tempered glass. So yeah, just bear that in mind. You just need a diamond hole saw, and you can drill it very easily. It brings me on to the next thing that I wish I did change. I thought it was a good idea at the time, drilling into the bottom of the tank. But realistically, I would probably, if I had my time again, I would drill at the back of the tank on the side. So it was a ghost style overflow, and that's just going to give me an extra 15 centimeters of the actual the tank, and it's also going to give me a much cleaner look, because I wouldn't have needed to DIY my own overflow weir, which was a bit of a pain in the backside. It wasn't the most difficult thing to do, but it was very time consuming. And yeah, if I had the ability to just do the ghost style overflow, it would have made my life a little bit easier. The reason that I didn't was, number one, they were quite expensive. They were like $300 or $400 when I was looking, because I had to get it shipped from America. And the other reason was I couldn't find anything of a decent quality in Australia when I was having a look. So that sort of swayed me to drill the bottom and have an in-tank overflow. And it's holding up. There's no leaks or anything. It works pretty easy. But yeah, definitely would have changed that. So after I drilled all my holes, I managed to just use standard PVC plumbing to go straight into the sump. It's again very easy. Probably the most challenging part was because I wanted both sides of the cabinet to come open. So I've got easy access on both sides. Both side panels come off. I couldn't sort of attach the PVC to the back like most people do when they're plumbing. So I just use a series of hooks and cable ties, and I just tie it to the top of the tank. It's probably a bit of a waste of space. If you wanted to save space and make it look super neat, my sump is notoriously bad. I've got wires and crap floating everywhere, but it's fine for me. I'm always taking things out to clean it. The last thing I want to do is make it difficult for me to do maintenance, because if it's difficult, then I'm just not going to do it. It's as simple as that. I don't have time to be worrying about a few wires here and there. As long as the main tank looks clean and contemporary, then I'm happy. I know certain people, that would really piss them off if they had loads of wires flying around everywhere, but it's just a part and parcel of having that much equipment in a sump. That's what I believe anyway. When I designed the plumbing, I decided to put a manifold in there, a 4-way manifold, just in case I wanted to hook any reactors up or any additional equipment in there. But realistically, I probably don't need it. If I redo the entire thing, I'll take it out and I'll just keep it nice and simple. I probably overthought it. I saw different videos on YouTube going through and trying to make this super complicated sump just in case you want to expand. But yeah, definitely I don't need it. If I want to add more stuff in there, I'll just throw a couple of pumps in there. There's enough room to do it, and that's what I do at the minute. And I prefer the fact that I don't have to fine tune the overflow every time I want to run something off the manifold. So after the plumbing was done and I got the tank wet, did a bit of a leak test, had to patch up a few small leaks. I used in certain areas I used threaded PVC pipe rather than just gluing it in, and where the threads met, there were some small leaks. So if you ever have that problem where you screw in PVC pipes in, you can get some plumbing tape. It's like a rubber sealant that you wrap around. I don't know the term for it, but if you need it, you're having that issue, hit me up in the comments and I'll send you a link. And you simply just wrap it around the threads and it creates a nice tight seal. In fact, I had to patch a Red Sea Max up, the nano tank that I bought, because it was just leaking water everywhere, and it was just as simple as wrapping this rubber thread around the seal, and it stopped it no problems. I've never had a problem with it since. So once that was all done, I had to do the final part and add the cabinet sides on. I used a MDF board. I think it was about 10 mil or a centimeter thick. I watched a few videos again on YouTube how to make it a super smooth finish, and you know, it starts by, you need to sand it down with a 200 or 300 grit sandpaper, prime it, sand it again, prime it, sand it again with a finer grit, and then basically you do that about 3 or 4 times until you run your fingers over the surface so it's super smooth. And then you also need to make sure that the edges of the MDF are all filled. So it's a bit of a sap. When you paint it, it absorbs all the water on the edges, and then it expands and swells. And that's obviously not what you want around a reef tank. So you have to make sure it's all filled in. There's different ways of doing it. You're probably better off just doing a bit of research online if you're going to use this method, but I definitely don't recommend using MDF if you want it to last more than a couple of years, because you can make it work, but it just takes so much time. And after I'd you know, cut the MDF to shape, sanded it down, give it a coat of paint, and I did this 3 or 4 times over, the results look pretty good, but it must have taken me about 3 or 4 days. And again, I realistically don't have that much time to spend on something there that, if looking back on the time spent, I could have just gone to IKEA and bought some kitchen cabinet doors, built the frame to the size of the ready-made cabinet doors, and you know, with the amount of money that I'd saved, it would have been better just to buy the ready-made doors for it, and it gives it a better finish. If you've got a certain look that you're trying to go for and you can't accomplish it by buying ready-made doors and things, then obviously, you know, go ahead and build it yourself. But all I wanted was like a creamy, not a super glossy white, but like a semi-gloss, and you can get it from anywhere really. So that's again something that in hindsight I definitely would never do. And in fact, if I do decide to rebuild this tank and rebuild the stand, I'll go ready-made doors 100%. I'll never ever finish it myself again. So that's it for the build really. Just more of an overview rather than a how-to video. There's plenty of how-to videos on how to make, you know, how to DIY your own fish tank, but hopefully I've given you a bit of an insight of the things that I would have done differently, and I'm sure many people are going to have the same thought process as me. So good luck if you're looking at making your own one, and in the next video we'll take a look at the hardware that I use. So I don't use anything extraordinary. I just got some good quality pumps, and I've got a few DIY things that I made myself that are working really well. So I'll probably share how-to videos on them specifically. I've got a nice Cobb LED sump light, which is doing really good at growing macroalgae, and it's you know, it's higher powered than the Kessel H380, but it's also scalable. So if you need something really cheap and lightweight but good quality, you can do it. Or if you need something on a massive scale, again, it's really easy to just to change the drivers, add different LEDs on it, and you can really get a good light which is specific to what your tank needs. So we'll take a look at that in a future video. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below, and I'll probably fast track it a little bit. Other things that I did were I've got I think it's a Chinese JBO, I think is how you pronounce it. I've got a dosing pump, and it's completely crap. It used to never be able to dose the right amount of liquids in my tank, so I decided to swap out the motors in it, and I've managed to get it absolutely spot on. It's like you know, it's working as good as any dosing pump I've ever had. So I'll probably share how I did that as well, because anyone can do it. If you're having the same issues as well, just let me know, and I'll fast track that video. So if you're with me to the end, thank you for watching. I know this has been a very long video. I didn't expect it to be 15 minutes, but thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.